Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I am Hugh Matthias. I'm going to be sharing some thoughts here, some of the knowledge I've gained on this path, this human journey about I guess the deeper stuff, the juicy stuff, consciousness, nature, reality, what it means to be a human being on this planet at this time. And just exploring and hopefully sharing information that you'll find useful and helpful on your path of your own self-discovery and evolution. I know I'm certainly on that path myself. Have been for a while now, long time now. So, I'm trying to stop this phone wobbling because I'm holding it with my hand. I need to get some more suitable equipment for the outdoors. Well, let's explore a fundamental topic, one of the biggest there is, that of consciousness. What is consciousness? I've been exploring this question for many, many years on my own path of, like I said, self-discovery. You could call it awakening, which is an ongoing process, evolution, transformation, in countless ways, some of which I will do my best to explore in these videos. But on the topic of consciousness, I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I have been delving into certain material that explores this topic in some amazing ways, and we're at a time where understanding of it is changing. For decades, centuries, perhaps even millennia, scientific and medical establishments have said that consciousness arises in the brain, in the human brain. But there are now studies being done that show that this is not true. That can pretty much prove that rather arising from our biology, consciousness is something that is non-local and is more of a signal, a roaming signal. There's a couple of analogies I can use for this. One of them is a television set. So if you have a broadcast signal that's coming into a TV, and say it's a news broadcast, you're looking at the TV, you're seeing a news person reading the news, seemingly inside the television. What if we compare the television to the physical hardware of a human body? That program is not really in the TV, it's being broadcast to it, it's being received by the television and transmitted. So this is a very kind of basic analogy of how consciousness actually works. Another one could be comparing consciousness to a film projector. Your consciousness, light, comes into the projector. It moves through filters. Your conditioning, your programming, your beliefs, your patterns, and then it refracts into a picture on a screen in your mind, which you experience as your reality. So the materialist, say that word, paradigm has long tried to say, like I said, that consciousness arises in the brain as a result of brain activity, as a result of our biology. And that is shown now to be completely outdated and completely redundant assumption. I've recently been listening to a series called the Telepathy tapes, which a dear friend first told me about and put me onto, and it is absolutely fascinating. It's quickly becoming has quickly become one of the most viewed podcasts in the world. I think it's even challenging Joe Rogan for the top spot, but it delves into or explores the phenomenon of non-verbal autistic children, that is, autistic children who are very severely along or extremely along the autistic scale. They can't physically communicate, they can't speak, and it was discovered that among these children there is telepathic ability. Children that could read their parents' thoughts, and the parents of these children quickly realized that something very unusual was happening. So they brought in a researcher called Kai Dickens, who is producing the telepathy tapes, and it was discovered that these children, almost without exception, have telepathic ability. They can not only read their parents' thoughts, but they can tell someone who's behind a screen in another room, who's looking at an image, what they're looking at. And they have learned to, many of the children have learned to communicate through iPads and display extraordinary abilities, which opens up a whole new set of questions about the nature of consciousness and reality. One of the most amazing things that the podcast looks at is that these children were able to gather in a telepathic realm called the Hill, where they were learning knowledge, they were exchanging knowledge with other non-speaking autistic children. And these are kids that many of whom have not been through the education system. They've not been able to read, write, or speak for many years, but like I said, they've started to learn how to communicate through iPads and technology and spell out letters in response to questions and tests. But I would, if you're interested in this topic, go check out the telepathy tapes. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And it also explores how some people, after having some kind of experiencing some kind of brain injury or trauma, that they find afterwards that they've got a new ability. It's called savant syndrome, sudden savant syndrome. One guy discovered that after having, I think it was maybe a motorbike accident, but when he recovered, he found out that he could play the piano effortlessly just by knowing instinctively what notes to play. Never studied the piano before, but he could play classical piano. He suddenly had this ability, this talent. Another lady went through a difficult time in her life, and then shortly after discovered that she had a new talent for drawing that she'd never had before. She'd never even had any artistic inclination before, but she suddenly had this new talent, and she was able to draw these fantastic mandalas. And the series also looks at NDEs, people that have very vivid, lucid, rich experiences during medical procedures, during resuscitation attempts, where there's no brain activity at all. There's no brain readings. The lights are out, but they're seeing their bodies from above. They're having these very, very intensely rich and diverse experiences that they all say feel even more real than this reality that we're in. So, yeah, this is a fascinating area. And the field of NDEs itself is it's just mind-blowing. What people are seeing and experiencing during these experiences or moments of crisis. Perhaps they've been in an accident, or they're in the emergency room, or they're having an operation, that something goes wrong, and they all report the same thing. Their consciousness withdraws from the body. It goes into another realm, and has these incredible experiences. And often, with all NDEs, almost all of them report that they're told during these experiences that it's not their time to it's not their time to basically cross over, that they still have unfinished business left as a human. And almost all of them, or pretty much all of them, I think, say they don't want to come back because where they are is so amazing. But they're all told they have to come back. Often that when they do come back, that they will experience rapid healing for conditions that were thought to be terminal. There's a guy called Dr. Alexander Eben, who wrote a book called Proof of Heaven. And he was formerly a skeptic about any of these topics. He was very, what we call, left-brained materialist. He thought, we live in a Newtonian physical 5-sense world, and that's all there is. And he would have dismissed things like near-death experiences, mystical experiences, as complete nonsense. But then he contracted a very rare form of meningitis, and he was in a critical condition, and during that time he left his body and had the most mind-blowing experience in another dimension that he could never have imagined. And when he came back, he knew without a doubt that our consciousness is far more than we can imagine, and he wrote a book about it called, like I said, it's called Proof of Heaven. So yes, there's, this is happening more and more. I think there's another lady called Anita Morjani who was at stage 4 cancer. She was in hospital. She was surrounded by family. They were told she only had a few hours left. And during what they thought were going to be her final hours. She was in a coma, and during that coma, she left her body, went into a parallel realm where she said that she met her father, and who told her during this magnificent experience that she recounts in her book. I think it's called Dying to Be Me, maybe. But anyway, it's a lady called Anita Morjani. I'll post some links with this video down below. All these materials that I'm talking about, I'll post links to them. So yeah, she had an incredibly vivid experience in another realm, and she was told by beings in that realm that it wasn't her time, that if she chose to come back to Earth, that her cancer would rapidly dissolve, that her body would recover to full health. So she, again, very reluctantly came back, and within hours she woke from the coma, and within about 6 to 12 hours all her tumours started rapidly shrinking. Doctors could not fathom what was happening. But within a few days she was almost completely cancer free. She was able to walk out of the hospital and go on to write a book about her experience. She's written a few books now. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to talk about this topic because we don't understand consciousness. Largely, we don't understand it. And I think there's a huge misunderstanding about what death is. It's not what many of us have been led to believe. It is not a finite ending. It is not oblivion. I think it's actually the opposite of that. It's a whole new experience. It's an expansion. And like I said, I think it could be moving into, it's a process where we move into a reality that's even more real than this one. And that's a difficult thing to be able to imagine. But our consciousness is just not existing here. It's sent part of itself like a signal into a human body. We can call it a roaming signal. As human beings, we're biological quantum computers. And I've often wondered and kind of do think that we're living in a simulation, a holographic simulation, that part of our consciousness, like I said, is sent into a human body, and our brain acts as the transmitter receiver for that consciousness, and it broadcasts then a signal that, or it creates a picture that we experience as reality. So another analogy is, if you imagine someone going to a laptop and logging onto the internet and experiencing the World Wide Web. So if we call that person our consciousness, the laptop is the human body, the hardware that it logs onto, or interfaces with, to experience our collective reality, which in this case would be the World Wide Web. And that's, at its most simple, basic level, that's what's going on. We are highly advanced, highly sophisticated quantum biological computers experiencing a collective reality. That's what I think. That's what I feel is the truth. And if you want to know more about this, then I highly recommend you read David Icke's books. He's written 3 books, more recently called The Trap, The Dream, and The Reveal. They talk all about these concepts in great detail, if you want to learn more. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this because, well, I think it's good to talk about it. I think more and more people are becoming interested about these things, and we're living in a time where the world is very unstable. A lot of people are in fear, and I think learning more about consciousness and the nature of reality and what happens when, a human life is over, when we move on, I think is helpful. It can give a sense of greater peace, clarity, and yeah, the empowerment, I guess, that comes with knowing more and expanding our knowledge on the path to becoming a more sovereign human being. And that in itself is another thing that I'm very interested in. How we navigate life as conscious, aware, sovereign beings that are connected to our greater awareness, our greater selves. And this knowledge isn't for everyone. Not everyone's interested in it. Not everyone, is interested in learning about these things. But the chances are, if you're here, listening, watching this video, then yeah, and if you've watched it this far, chances are you're very interested, and you're on that path. So I'm not here to, wake anyone up who doesn't want to be awakened. I'm here to share knowledge for those who are ready for it, who are interested in it. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So I guess this is my first video on my channel. I am Hugh Matthias, and yeah, I've called it that because, well, I'm not just Hugh Matthias. I am a consciousness. I am that consciousness, experiencing life as a human being. So yeah, hence the name. I am Hugh Matthias, and thank you for being here and watching this video, and I look forward to being on this journey with you, hopefully for many videos to come. And yeah, sharing knowledge and putting information out there that I think is needed and helpful for the world as we all go through this unprecedented time on planet Earth. I think it's more important than ever that we equip ourselves and empower ourselves with the knowledge that we need to move through this immense transformation and shift and metamorphosis that's happening to our reality, to our consciousness, and to us as a humanity. So with that, I'm sending you all lots of love, and yeah, just out here in the outdoors, in the hills, near Sitges, Spain. And just to end with a little bit more about me, I'm based between the UK and Spain. By living, I'm an artist and a graphic designer, but I'm also interested in, consciousness, spirituality, metaphysics, metascience, and all these incredible new fields of study that are emerging about the true nature of reality and consciousness, and like I said, how we move into being fully awake and aware, empowered and sovereign human beings. So I'll just give you a little view. And take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Sending you all lots of love on this beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next video.